Okay.
Yeah, number 68.
60 days, right down by the
What?
Deshan and Veronica Sirachi to go over the RU Marketplace Purchase Order Line section. For a little bit of background, and again, those of you who have attended these open forums may have seen this before, but we wanted to always level set with this. After working in the Chart of Accounts for more than a year and hearing about the difficulties that the staff, faculty, and central administration are experiencing with its use, we are developing better ways to serve the university through Chart of Accounts changes, improved controls in education, guidance, support, and policies to ensure the best use of the Chart of Accounts. Our goal is to improve how we support our operations by making the chart of accounts simpler to use, ensuring the data are accurate and easily reportable across the university, and making certain that the project ledger interacts seamlessly with the general ledger. Again, this is the first or the beginning of a series of steps that we're going to be implementing over the next few weeks. For a little bit of a background, the chart of accounts was developed with maximum flexibility to provide the university the opportunity to report as each unit saw fit. Unfortunately, as a university, we could not handle that flexibility. It allowed users to enter any chart string combinations, purposely or unintentionally, which led to the creation of thousands of invalid chart string combinations. Currently, we are not following best practices due to the lack of documentation on standard transactions, inconsistent use of the chart, and lack of clarity on how the university should be using the project subledger. So we're going to be implementing a series of chart of accounts cross-validation rules, also known as CVRs. Cross-validation rules control the combination of values you can use when selecting chart of accounts segment values. A cross-validation rule defines whether a value of a particular chart of accounts segment can be combined with specific values of other chart of accounts segments. The CVR also helps and enforces how your accounting information is collected, categorized, and stored for reporting purposes. On May 7th, PeopleSoft and RU Marketplace will require that all new ECIs and requisitions use a valid UDO. On July 1st, PeopleSoft and RU Marketplace will be updated to require that the entire general ledger string adheres to the full list of cross-validation rules. Again, we'll repeat these dates to remember. On May 7th, rules will be implemented in RU Marketplace and PeopleSoft to ensure only valid UDOs are used with new transactions. For RU Marketplace and PeopleSoft users, you must use a valid UDO, and we'll show you how to ensure you're using a valid UDO in this webinar. Also on May 7th, cross-validation rules will be put into Oracle for monitoring only. This will not prevent journal entries, project cost transactions, or expense reports from processing. On June 30th, and starting on May 7th, we will provide monitoring reports, what we also call exception reports. They will be available starting on May 7th, and we'll be monitoring and testing for all CVRs through June 30th. Monitoring reports will identify chart string combinations in violation of any of the rules. We're hoping that we give you enough feedback and enough of those reports that we can handle as much of this as possible before July 1st. Okay? July 1st is an important date, and that users in all systems will be prevented from using invalid UDOs and invalid full chart string combinations. And again, we will show you how to make sure you're using the chart of accounts correctly under these new rules. So for all users, we recommend, regardless of the date, that you start using the valid full chart string combinations now so that you can get accustomed to using them before July 1st. And I'm going to go through a couple of slides that give you some of the where you can find the updates and resources. First thing, again, we do have a separate WebEx that will be that we gave this morning that will also be recorded and put on the controller's website. That will go in more depth as it relates to the valid UDO combinations and cross-validation rules. Those links will be provided on the University Controller's site. In the University Controller's site, under the Chart of Accounts initiative, if you click on that, you will see a submenu which will lay out all of the information needed for the Chart of Accounts initiative, including a list of the valid and invalid UDOs, the chart segment values, and the cross-validation rules that we're putting in place. You'll also find other information like job aids for employee charging instructions, etc., on this website. Okay. For a brief description on the Chart of Accounts, we'll do a little bit of a segment review just to get everybody grounded on the terminology. Our Chart of Accounts segments is a 10-segment string made up of 39 digits. The segments break up into these categories. The unit segment, also referred to as the responsibility center, identifies the school or institution or center and or central unit which is required to produce a balanced balance sheet. The division is used to group organizations into alternate hierarchies, and the organization or department is a business area with dedicated people and space. We commonly combine these unit, division, and organization segments to really define what an organization is. We sometimes call that a UDO. The next segment is the location segment. It's the area for which you are providing a service, which could or could not be the physical geographic location of the people providing the service. It identifies the area where the revenue and or costs were incurred, including on-site, off-site, online, and foreign locations. The fund type segment identifies the funding source used to acquire goods and services, whether it's unrestricted, restricted, endowment, plant, loan, auxiliary. The business line segment identifies a specific line of business or mission, and in our case we use that a lot for functional classifications for external reporting purposes. These missions include instruction, research, healthcare, public service, as well as other. The account segment identifies the nature of the transaction, such as expense or revenue. The activity identifies total activity of high-level interdisciplinary and strategic initiatives that span across multiple responsibility centers. The intra-unit is a system-generated, which means there's no user input required, transaction that balances journals and for financial activity between a unit and or fund type. And then we have a future segment, which is a placeholder if we need to add an additional segment in the future. Okay, those definitions that I just rattled off are provided to you in the next few slides, and it's 14 and 15. Okay, at this point, I will take a break and we'll go visit our chat room and see if there are any questions up here that we need to address. And it does not look like we have any. All right, so I'm going to hand over this part of the presentation to Ms. Dee Wiggins. Dee, take it away.
Good afternoon. Today we'll be demonstrating how to access the list of employee charging instructions, or ECI, that are currently in violation of the cross-validation rule. A communication that was sent on April 24th contained a worksheet of a snapshot of ECIs with UDO violations. The PeopleSoft pagelet that I'll be demonstrating has the most current information. As you sign into PeopleSoft, you will now see a new feature, the Preview ECI CVR Violations pagelet. This screen will give you the employee charging instructions, or ECIs, for your department that have cross-validation rule violations. This pagelet will be updated daily at 6 a.m., 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., and 6 p.m. All commitment accounting preparers and approvers have access to this pagelet. The top box will give you current information. If your department does not have any ECI CVR violations, it will be indicated in this green box. There are no ECI CVR violations for the department you have access to. This pagelet will give you the department ID and description, number of invalid combo codes, and the number of employees with invalid combo codes. The summary screen will list 5 departments on that page. To view the entire list of departments you are responsible for, please go to the link below, link to full list of departments. This link will also give you additional information. But before we go forward, what are PeopleSoft combination codes? A combination code is a system-generated number. The combination code is a shortcut for the full chart string combination. This is not the same combination code that's used in Oracle. Below is just a description of a GL string and a project string. This pagelet will give you once you click on the link of full list of departments, there are 2 tabs to choose. The first tab will list the combination codes that have CVR violations that have been used by your department. In the center of the page is a link to the Chart of Accounts initiative for FY19 that will bring you to the controller's website. The first box on this page will indicate if your department's default has a combination code that needs to be changed. The reason this box has 2 lines is one combo code is used for a department's default earnings, and the other is used for your department's expense. The box below lists the combination codes and the number of employees charging instructions associated with that combination code. This page can be downloaded to Excel for your use. If it is indicated that your department default needs to be changed, the department default change request form will need to be completed. Please note, once the department default is changed, the suspense combination code will also be updated. This form can be found on the payroll website, University Payroll Services, under the Commitment Accounting tab, the Department Default Chart String. Once the form is completed and approved, it can be scanned and sent to the payroll email address at payroll@rutgers.edu. At this time, does anyone have any questions?
And again, just a reminder for those folks, use the chat screen by clicking on the chat button in the Cisco WebEx Meeting Center ribbon and enter your chat message at the bottom.
Okay, we'll move forward. The second tab will list each employee by their employee ID number with the UDO and CVR violations. This page also has a link to the Chart of Accounts initiative for FY19 and can also be downloaded to Excel. Please be aware that CVR violations will have no impact on the employee being paid. All employees will continue to be paid. This is an example of the PeopleSoft CVR error message you will see effective May 7th. And here are our contact information if you have any questions and you'd like to contact us down the road.
Okay, so we have one question here. Will this presentation be shared with us following the webinar? Yes, it will. It will be on the controller's website by Friday, and we will let everybody know via an announcement. The page on ECI was not readable.
You should be able to see it when you sign into PeopleSoft. This was just a snapshot of the page. So if you sign into PeopleSoft, it will be much larger for you to read.
Okay.
And now I'll hand it over to Tom.
We have a couple questions coming in. All right, good. Will the pagelet be live on 5/7 or today?
The pagelet is live right now, and as of 5/7, will be out there with all your CVRs.
The next question is, if I do not know what I am searching for, how can I search for the page? Sounds like a trick question.
The page is available as soon as you sign into PeopleSoft. Just as the department default and suspense pagelets are out there, you should see it before, just as soon as you sign in.
Okay, and if they don't see it, Dee?
Contact us. Contact one of us, and it will we'll be able to get you access. You must not be a preparer or approver. That's why you wouldn't be able to see it.
Good. Okay, we'll continue to monitor this. So we'll break periodically in between these sessions here to revisit this chat screen. Go ahead, Tom.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining this section of the webinar. I will be covering RU Marketplace, changes coming, and guidance on purchase order lines that need to be done in order to clean up purchase orders that have invalid combinations. I will be presenting today myself from the Project Management Office and with Veronica Sirachi from the Procurement Services Office. All right, so what we want to cover today is how to use valid UDOs in RU Marketplace, how to use the valid full chart string combination in RU Marketplace, and lastly, guidance on correcting purchase order lines that are in violation of cross-validation rules. As a reminder, this is the chart of accounts. It's 10 segments: unit, division, organization, UDO, location, fund type, business line, account activity, intra-fund, and future. These are the segments that Ernie just described. We're just reminding everybody because in today's session, we'll be covering cross-validation rules that hit most of these segments. All right. You've heard us talk about cross-validation rules, or CVRs as we call them. What they do is they control the combination of values that you can create when selecting chart of account segment values. A cross-validation rule defines whether a value of a particular chart of account segment can be combined with specific values of other chart of account segments. A CVR also helps and enforces how your accounting information is collected, categorized, and stored for reporting purposes. A couple of key dates. On May 7th, PeopleSoft and RU Marketplace will require that all new ECIs and requisitions use a valid UDO. In this session, we'll show you how to find a valid UDO. On July 1st, all systems will be updated to require that the full chart string combination adheres to the full list of cross-validation rules, including UDO combinations. We will also be covering how to build a full chart string combination. All right. We're going to be showing this cross-validation rule file today. And how to read this file and how to interpret the logic of the cross-validation rule. Just to get going here, so we all need to be working with the chart of accounts under these rules. We'll be showing examples of how each user needs to use this file. For example, this rule named CVR FTBL09 says that medical contracts for the state of New Jersey fund types 145 and 390 can only be used with healthcare and clinical business lines 3500 through 3999, as well as business line 9999 for the balance sheet. So we're going to go through a few more examples today, but this is a example of how the cross-validation rules file looks like and how it should be read. Currently, there are 6 categories of cross-validation rules. So each of the categories covers combinations of 2 segments. For example, there's a category for account and unit. There's 1 rule for that. There's a category for business line and account. There's 2 rules for that. There's a category for fund type and account. There's 21 rules for that, and so on. So as you transact under the chart of account with the chart of accounts under the new rules, you will need to get familiar with how these rules work. All right. So let's talk about RU Marketplace. Okay, so the next slide is showing where the resources are on the controller's website. These are files that I'll be referring to during this session. First file is valid and invalid UDOs. The next file is RU Marketplace valid UDOs without rules and UDOs to be deactivated. The next file is the cross-validation rules proposed. That is the list of cross-validation rules. The next file that we will be talking about today is the purchase order lines that are in current violation. And the file, the very last file is the job aid, which is the information on this presentation that you can refer to. All right. So how to prepare for May 7th. So first step is to check that your UDO, the UDO you're using, is on the valid UDO list. Go to the controller's website and download the valid and invalid UDOs file. Check to see if your UDO is on the valid list. If your UDO is not on this list, it's not valid for use. I'm just flipping over to that file. This file is one of the files I referred to that's on the controller's website. It has 2 tabs. One tab is the listing of valid UDOs. You could search and filter on the columns. And the other tab is a listing of invalid UDOs that are not allowed. If your UDO is on that list, you're almost there. Next, download the RU Marketplace valid UDOs without rules and UDOs to be deactivated file. Check this file to see if your UDO has an approval rule. All valid UDOs must also have an approver in order for RU Marketplace to process the transactions. If you have a UDO that is on this list, you must request an approver in order for it to work. I'm going to flip over to that Excel. And I'm going to pause for a question.
Will there be a CBR review in expense management?
A CBR review, yes. Yes, the CBR, yes. So that's a good question. So the question is, will there be a CBR review in expense management? The answer to that question is yes. So just keep in mind the dates. On May 7th, the rules will be in Oracle, but they will only be in monitor mode. So we will be able to monitor all transactions, including expense management transactions, starting on May 7th through June 30th to see if any of those transactions are in violation. And that goes across the board with all sources of transactions, not just expense management, but all sources of transactions that are coming into Oracle. On July 1st, the rules will be in effect. So on July 1st, if you're violating a rule in expense management or any other system, your transaction will not go through.
The next question is, I don't understand what you mean by rules.
Okay. Do you want to answer?
Go ahead.
All right. So these are business rules that are available in the system. And when we went live, we actually had rules put into place. We had cross-validation rules put into place. And what we mean by rules is that there is a feature in the setup of Oracle to say that, you know, a certain segment value, let's just say font type, can or cannot be used with another segment value, let's say, for example, account. So when we went live, we did have some of these rules put into place. These would be referred to as business rules or configuration in a system. What we're doing for this project is we're adding to that or supplementing those rules with a lot more rules to make our system have more controls, more internal controls, and less things to reconcile, and to provide for more accurate financial reporting.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is not like grade school where we have a bunch of rules, but what we are trying to do is get the university to start transacting at a way that we can report externally to our external sponsors and then internally to our sponsors. And, you know, we had a number of communications that went out just to talk about, as a result of not having these controls into the transaction systems, and as a result of not having good, clear understanding, training, policy, documentation, et cetera, that we had this confusion where we created a lot more invalid combinations. And so we're trying to get a handle on that and improve the way we transact in the system. Again, this is one step in a number of steps that we are going to be rolling out over the next few weeks to do a better job of training, educating, creating policy and procedure. Okay?
So we have another question. Why don't we break here and answer the questions that are coming in? So the next question is...
example.
On 9/25, a combo co updated on employees' charging instructions correctly with earnings split 75%, 25%. On 10/11, someone from payroll changed the combo code to an incorrect combo code at 100%, which resulted in an EPI violation. Is the payroll department permitted to make edits to employee charging instructions submitted by a preparer and approved by the approver?
To answer that question, an SWRJ may have been submitted, and that's what we would act on, and that's why you would see somebody from payroll, somebody from payroll's name in there in the instructions. You can email me. It's jh1251@payroll.rutgers.edu, and I will take a look at it. But if someone in payroll is changing it, it's usually acted on by an SWRJ that has been submitted.
I'm not sure I understand the question here. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Sue Heleno. For question unit XXX 1510-9999, University Controller Z, non-operations, and UDO combination XXX 1510-3103, University Controller. Are these UDOs valid and created by Central? Yes, they are, but they're not to be used. They're really for year-end processing, so I would just disregard them for your use. They are valid in the system because when we close the books at year-end, things roll to them, and we need these two UDO combinations.
Thank you, guys. All right, good. I think that's probably a good segue as we get into RU Marketplace and the valid UDOs without rules. So just to recap, I'm going back one slide. The first thing you need to do is to make sure that your UDO that you want to use in RU Marketplace is on the valid UDO list. The next file is RU Marketplace valid UDOs without rules and UDOs to be deactivated. So if you have a valid UDO, which actually a good example is the one we just talked about, a valid UDO, if you want to use it in RU Marketplace, it needs to have a rule. So you want to make sure by checking this file that if you have a valid UDO that you want to use in RU Marketplace, if it's on this list, it means it doesn't have a rule and you need to request a rule. You may see one of those 1510 ones. It's a valid UDO. It doesn't have a rule. You may not want to make it have a rule. So, but you may have one on here that's valid and that doesn't have a rule that you want to take action on and request an improver for. The other tab on here is UDOs to deactivate. So these UDOs are currently active in RU Marketplace and will be deactivated. Okay. All right, next slide. So if RU Marketplace users try to use an invalid UDO on or after May 7th, the requisition will fail and will be returned to the requester. If RU Marketplace users try to use valid UDOs that do not have an approver, the requisition will fail and be returned to the requester. All right, we're going to get to how to request that in a minute. It's the next slide. All right, if you create a requisition in RU Marketplace and you get a notification that says, a requisition you submitted has been returned, check the History and the Notes tabs. If there is nothing there, you need to check these three things. Is every field in the chart of accounts filled out? Is it a punch-out where the shipping address has changed? Or is it a UDO that's valid? You can check this by checking the files that I just showed you. Again, if you receive a requisition, if you receive a message that says a requisition you submitted has been returned, if the UDO is valid, please contact your business manager or chancellor and central unit representative to have them complete the RU Marketplace access form with the UDO approvers. Then return the form to procure@finance.rutgers.edu. If the UDO is invalid, please contact your business manager or chancellor and central unit representative to identify a valid UDO that can be used for requisition. If you do not know who your business manager is, go to the controller's website's Chart of Account Initiative page. Look up the chancellor and central unit representative using the chancellor and central unit representative's link. We're going to pause for some questions.
Okay, so first question here is, this part is really confusing to me regarding valid UDOs and the need for rules. It's a great question.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, we know that there's a lot here to take in, but basically the combination of unit, division, and organization is what defines your organization, right? We often refer to that as a UDO. We've seen through the process that there are invalid combinations of UDO. So somebody could have picked a central unit with a healthcare division or something like that. And unfortunately, some of that was either done purposefully or unintentionally via some system-generated rules. And so we had lots of combinations that were invalid. And all we're trying to do is clean up all the bad ones and let all the good ones go through.
Okay, there was a question on how can we request approver for valid UDOs. So there was a process that when we went through and we went out to the chancellor's offices and the central unit reps, and they pushed it down to business managers to identify valid UDOs. So if you think you need a new one, what you need to do is work with your business manager through your chancellor's office or your central unit rep and pass it along to the COA at finance.rutgers.edu. And the same thing for how do we deactivate a UDO that is no longer needed or no longer valid. Pretty much you contact COA at finance.rutgers.edu. Let us know what that UDO is. We need to make sure that there are no balances in any of the segments associated with that UDO, and then we can turn it off.
Okay, there was a follow-up question on the UDO, on the rules question. Let me be more specific. I have valid UDOs. Why and how do I need to implement rules? That's a great question.
So actually is the slide we're on right now. So if you have a UDO.
But to be more specific, the users aren't going to be implementing rules, right? We're not asking them to run rules or implement rules. No. These are going to be done at Central in the system.
No, hang on. If there's a valid UDO that needs an approver to approve the requisitions in RU Marketplace, they need to fill out the form that's on the slide I'm showing right now, which basically says, I have a UDO that's valid. Here's the approver that's the approver of this UDO. That needs to go through the chain of getting approved into the procurement office to turn that UDO on for procurement, for RU Marketplace.
Thanks for that clarification, Tom.
All right, so just to clarify those steps, because I know there's a lot of questions. So if I'm just going to go back on the slides a little bit, is number one, make sure your UDO is on the valid UDO list, number one, okay? Number two is to make sure that the UDO that's valid, it has a rule. And the ones that don't have rules will be on this list called valid COA UDOs without rules.
For marketplace.
Yes, for marketplace. Be aware of the ones that are getting deactivated, okay? And then just to reiterate, they will be rejected starting on May 7th if they're not on the valid list or don't have a rule. If it's on the valid list and doesn't have a rule, you need to take the steps that are in this slide, which basically says you have a valid UDO. It's valid, but it doesn't have an approver yet for the transactions to get approved in the marketplace. So you need to take the steps following it. Number three, open and review the Excel UDOs without rules, and UDOs to be deactivated. View the list with the business manager. Obtain the RU Marketplace System Access Form by going through to My Rutgers Portal, Cornerstone Access Request page. And this is where you complete the form to give that UDO rules in Marketplace. You submit that form, and it'll get the rules needed for it to be valid for use in Marketplace. All right, so for the ones that are on the invalid list, okay, Central will be deactivating those. There's no action needed from the users for those. Next question.
I think we have to go up a little bit,
yes,
right? Because the questions are coming in fast and furious now. So is it this, if an employee has an invalid UDO, can we request payroll to update the UDO based on our departmental string for all others?
Yes. The one thing I did want to mention, we are working towards correcting, to updating everyone's ECI that is the same as your department charging instructions. They will be updated automatically. So if for example, if you have a list of 500 people that are all going to your department default, once you update your department default, we will be updating the employee charging instructions. Also, when you drill down to the employee list, those employees that are on the department default combo code will be highlighted. We'll have an asterisk next to their name so you'll know who's being updated.
Okay. The next question is, when you mention an approver, do you mean the department person responsible for approving the rec and the PI?
Well, it probably meant to say PO, but yes.
Okay. Next question. I've tried to close an invalid UDO PO, but it keeps auto-rejecting using the spreadsheet that was sent to me. Not sure how to proceed.
Okay, so this is a good question for Veronica. If she's on the chat, she could write in the answer to that one. So let's put that one on hold until Veronica responds to that.
Okay. The next question, if we are seeing invalid UDO combinations listed in the spreadsheet, does that mean there have been charges to them?
For the most part, yes. If you look at the spreadsheet, it has a balance and an amount. So I can't say whether it has charges to them, but I believe all of the POs on that spreadsheet have a balance and an amount in the columns. So either they were converted with an amount or they got charges since we've been live. It's one or the other.
Okay. Next question, does without rules mean without an approver?
Yes, that's exactly what it means.
Next question, if the department currently has valid UDO and has approvers for Marketplace, they only need to fill out the Marketplace access form if the UDO has no rules.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Next question. I was sent an approver list to update a few UDOs, but those UDOs were listed to be deactivated. Do I still have to complete the approver listing on those UDOs that need to be deactivated?
No.
Those are quick yes/no answers. All right. While we're waiting for Veronica, I don't see any other questions on here, Tom.
Okay. I mean, the bottom line here, just to summarize, we have to use the valid UDOs, and those valid UDOs need to have an approver in Marketplace. That's the bottom line here. All right. All right, the following slides illustrate how to build a valid full string, a valid full chart string combination that complies with the new cross-validation rules. We encourage users to start using the full chart string combinations now, but these rules go into effect on the following dates. This is an important slide. On May 7th, cross-validation rules will be in monitor mode between May 7th and June 30th. Reports will be provided to show which transactions are in violation. This way we can all get accustomed to using the chart of accounts under the new rules. On July 1st, the new cross-validation rules will be in effect, and all users across all systems must adhere to these rules.
Yes. Okay. Are you saying that a valid UDO without rules is not technically valid until approval rules have been created?
Yes, that is correct. So in Marketplace, if you have a valid UDO and it doesn't have rules or an approver, your requisition will be rejected. So you need to get an approver on a UDO that you plan to use before May 7th.
Next question. Are you saying that the charges on an invalid UDO will be moved to the valid UDO?
No, we're not saying that. So this is a go-forward approach. So it's only for new requisitions and POs and all other transactions that are currently on invalid UDOs will stay on the invalid UDOs. If you choose to move them with any type of reclass, you're free to do so, but not required to do so.
Okay. All right. shall I go?
Now, let's get this question first.
Okay. We received a list of a few old POs with incorrect fund types in the chart string. We were asked to correct the old POs. Who can correct old POs with incorrect chart strings? Is it only the preparer, or can the approver make corrections?
Okay, if this is referring to the mailing that went out on April 25th, due back on May 23rd, then we are asking you to fill out the spreadsheet. It's going to be the next section in this presentation. We're asking you to fill out the spreadsheet with the valid GL full string combination, and Central is going to update the purchase order.
Great, and the answer was yes, that's what they were referring to. So, all right, great, let's move on to that topic.
All right, so we're going to be talking about how to build full chart string combinations. So we wanted to show everybody kind of the rules of the road. So the first thing you need to do to build a full valid chart string combination is start with the valid UDO from the valid UDO spreadsheet. The next thing you need to do is add the remaining segments using the cross-validation rules as your guide. Make sure that those segments pass the cross-validation rules, and also check that the unit is also in compliance with the rest of the segments, and that will equal a valid chart string combination. So step one, like I said, is to pick a valid UDO off of the valid UDO spreadsheet. The next step is to understand the cross-validation rules. So just to recap, the cross-validation rules have different categories. There's a category of rules for account to unit, business line to account, fund type to account, fund type to business line, fund type to unit, and unit to business line.
Look at that.
The cross-validation rules is one of the files that's on the controller's website, and it looks like this. I'm going to flip over to the cross-validation rules spreadsheet and just go through an example. This is the spreadsheet. There's 43 rules of the CVRs. I'm going to pick one of the rules, and we're going to read through it to make sure everyone understands. I'm going to walk through an example of fund type account. So this rule is fund type account 14. From the description, you can see that this rule enforces that foundation and other nonprofit grants and contracts, which are fund types 520 and 560, can only be used in combination with certain accounts. So moving across to the right, you can see fund type 520 and 560 can only use the accounts that are listed here in column G. So that's how all of the rules are written. They all work the same way. So it's a good idea for everybody to know how these rules work now and start using the chart of accounts as if these rules were in full force between now and June 30th. We're going to pause here for a question.
Okay. Looks like it's from Veronica. So if a PO needs to be canceled due to an invalid string, create a change order request in RU Marketplace. Use the PO line close cancel form. If there's an issue processing the request, users can contact the procurement help desk. That was to answer that question that we had before.
Okay.
And then there was one more that I skipped over. I apologize. How far do you have to go back to make corrections? Right above Veronica's answer there.
Related to purchasing?
Yeah, this is related to the purchase orders. So what we've done is the purchase order spreadsheet that was sent out has roughly 3,500 purchase orders that are currently in violation. This is the entire population purchase orders that are in the system that are in violation. So we need to fix all of them. If, however, there is a situation where you want to close rather than fix, you can follow that same instruction that Veronica just said on her answer.
And I think that question was, I tried to close an invalid UDO PO, but it keeps auto-rejecting using the spreadsheet that was sent to me. Not sure how to proceed. That was,
I think that's the same answer.
That was the question that Veronica answered. If the PO needs to be canceled due to an invalid string. Okay. And it looks like, Veronica, there's a follow-up question to that this person's won't go through. It auto-rejected. Contacted the help desk, and it did not work. Well, I would suggest that we take this one offline with Veronica directly, and we'll try to get that handled.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good questions. Go ahead.
What if a PO has already been paid out, though?
Yeah, I mean, if it's already paid out, and, let's just say it's been paid out and there's a very small amount remaining as a balance on the PO, and rather than fixing the invalid chart string, we could just, again, follow those same steps to close the PO.
And do the reclass manually.
And do the reclass manually. Yes, thank you.
Okay. If we have a blanket PO with an invalid string, someone in university accounting will update the string so the invoices submitted will use the new string, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, for clarity, we use fund type 100 for our payroll personnel to our old payroll fund source starting with 20% or 20% sign. And we assign fund type 150 for our respective departmental accounts, which was our old fund source account starting with 2.8 accounts. Should all the UDO accounts for our payroll expenses should all be using fund type 100. We use fund type 100 for our payroll personnel to our old payroll fund source, and we assign fund type 150 to our respective departmental accounts to our old fund source 2.8 accounts. Should all accounts be at fund type 100? That's a mouthful. Okay. Again, I recommend we take this one offline and we talk to central accounting. We will send this over to the controller's office. And if I can, just remind folks who are using the chat function, if you do click on send to everyone, it does help us in terms of getting the questions out faster as opposed to, I think folks are sending them privately. So again, right where you enter the chat message, right above it where it says send to, please click send to everyone. Okay, general question about valid and
A couple more above. Yeah. I want to answer the one.
Well, okay, yeah, sorry.
So the one that Brian asked is, so that's why a chart string we were given has a space for entering the correct UDO. Yes, it's actually the correct full chart string, but yes. The next one is, does it matter if the blanket PO already has invoices paid against it? No, we still need to fix the chart string. Yeah, if it's the last invoice and there's going to be no more invoicing on it, you could choose to close it. But if it's already been invoiced and paid and it's still an active PO, we need to update the full chart string. All right, go. Can you read that?
General question about valid and invalid UDOs, not about RU Marketplace. Just want to clarify, who is cleaning the balances and transactions of invalid UDOs? What are the unit's responsibilities in the cleaning process, and what are Central's responsibilities? Who gives the guidance of cleaning invalid UDOs, like where to move the balances? For example, invalid UDO 900-502-51759 has more than a $2 billion balance, and where to move that balance?
Answer that one?
Yeah. So these particular balances, this specific account will be cleaned out by central accounting in conjunction with working with the individual units. And the controller's office has already started a process to do that specific cleanup account. For the remainder of these items, we are not requiring that these that the balances for through FY18 get reclassified. That will be up to the individual departments, and there will be no one from central accounting reclassifying amounts for invalid UDOs. Our motto here is to be clean in fiscal year 19, and that, all we're trying to do is to start transacting, as of today, to the correct valid UDO combinations and chart string segment values so that we can really have a good, clean start to fiscal year 19.
All right. I'd be happy to take the $2 billion off Rutgers' hands if it's such a problem. How about we split it? All right, let's move on. So, all right, so I just want to make sure that this slide is fully understood by everybody. So the slide that I'm looking at now is the cross-validation rule file. I want to go through one more example. So we looked at CBR FT account 14. Let's just go through one more example with fund type unit 05. So if I look up another rule, I'm just looking up another rule just to show everybody how to use this file. You can look up the rule. What you want to do when you're building a full chart string combination is to just make sure that your full chart string combination is adhering to all of the rules that are on this file. For example, this rule enforces that Hatch-Smith-Lieber grant funds, fund type 320, can only use units that are New Brunswick and in Central, so for these units. So essentially what this is saying is this fund type can only use these units. All of the rules are written this way. Again, as we go through using the system, whether it's RU Marketplace or any of the other sources, or whether it's updating your ECIs or your purchase order lines, please follow these rules. All right, moving on to purchase order lines. All purchase order lines that are currently violating cross-validation rules must be replaced with a valid full chart string combination. This is a required step to have clean purchase orders to begin the new fiscal year. On April 25th, all business managers were sent a listing of purchase orders that are in violation to be fixed and sent back by May 23rd. The following slides include a step-by-step guide on how to replace purchase order lines that are in violation with a valid chart string combination. Please note the purchase order line data is POs in the system as of February 19th with PO balances as of April 20th. We will continue to monitor the system between now and June 30th to address any POs created since that time and remain in violation before year end. This slide is showing you where the purchase order lines with cross-validation rule violations is on the controller's website. So you can see there that that file is out there for your reference. Yeah, also to note that between May 7th and June 30th, there will be monitoring reports, including a report on purchase orders that will continue to show which purchase orders are in violation. So as we progress, we should see that number to decrease. All right, so before we get started on the purchase order lines and the people who are out there that are working on this, I just have a note here to please check with your manager to make sure you're the designated person in your unit or UDO that should be performing this task. The next step is to get the list, which I'm going to switch to right now. So this is the spreadsheet that was sent out on April 25th that contains all the purchase orders that are in violation. The spreadsheet, as you can see, has the important information on the purchase orders, has the vendor, the PO number, creation date, the amounts. It has the UDO that you can filter on to see yours. It has the rule that was violated, and then the GL account that's in violation. And then in column I, it has a place for you to put in the correct full chart string combination. And off to the right, it has some other indicative information for you to identify better the purchase order. So for example, if I wanted to drill down on my UDO, going through the example on the slide, here are all my purchase orders in my UDO that are currently in violation. Going back to the slideshow, what we're asking you to do by May 23rd is to put in a GL string that adheres to the cross-validation rules in column I after performing the next steps that we're going to show you. All right, so the first thing you want to do is to make sure that the new valid GL full GL chart string has a valid UDO by referencing the UDO spreadsheet that we showed you before. The next thing you want to do is to make sure the remaining segments pass the cross-validation rules, including making sure that the unit also complies with the cross-validation rules. If you do that, your chart string will be valid. So again, make sure your UDO is on the valid UDO list, and make sure you understand the cross-validation rules. All right, the next slide drills into the spreadsheet. The same example that I was showing before. So what's showing on the spreadsheet is your UDO, a full GL chart string that's currently in violation, and what CVR rule it is violating. So in this case, CVR rule FTBL07 is the rule that this chart string is violating. First thing you want to do is make sure your UDO is on the valid UDO list. The next thing you want to do is to make sure that the remaining segments in the GL, full GL chart string are in compliance with the cross-validation rules. As you can see on this example, this full chart string is violating CVR FTBL07. If you go to the cross-validation rules file, you'll see that this rule says that you can't use fund type 500 with business line 6315. It goes on to say that if fund type 500 must be used with research, healthcare, public service, or scholarship business lines. By looking up the cross-validation rules, you can find the rule being violated and make the correction.
Want to take a break?
Sure. Are there questions?
We have one question.
Let's go with the
follow-up.
Sure.
When I pull up my POs, invalid chart strings, it does not list a violation. It was not charged to a GL account, so it's not on that list either.
Okay.
Could it be charged to a project? And Emily, we'll contact you offline to walk you through that.
Okay. All right, just make sure you're looking in column G. If you have no cross-validation rule violations in column G, we will have to take this one offline and see what's going on with the spreadsheet. All right. All right, so again, just going through the steps to replace your purchase order line with a good purchase order line. Again, just to recap. For example, this GL account string is violating CVR FTBL07. If you look at the cross-validation rule names, CVR FTBL07, if I look up CVR FTBL07, I can see that why this purchase order line is in violation. I'm using fund type 500, which is between 391 and 580, and I'm not using one of the valid business lines. As you can see, business line 6315 is not included in the list of business lines that I can use with fund type 500. This tells me that I need to either change the fund type or the business line. In this example, I assume that the business line was incorrect. So I put in column I the full chart string combination, replacing business line 6315 with business line 3100. Once you do that, for all of the purchase order lines in your UDO, send it back to COA@finance.rutgers.edu by May 23rd. Questions?
Yes, we got one. What about UDOs on projects? If a UDO used with a project as shown on Report 13 is in violation of the rules, how do I change the UDO associated with the project?
Okay. So I'm going to answer that question with probably two answers. So the first answer is if it's a purchase order that was sent to you on the spreadsheet, we need the updated full GL combination, regardless of whether it was on a project or not. Going forward, just to add what's happening going forward, is all project information is going to be cleaned up so that the project information won't produce a bad combination on the GL. But for the purchase orders that are already done, we need to fix.
And there was a separate list of projects that were sent out that requested the project setup was correct on the UDO?
Yes, there was.
That was a separate analysis that was done. Go ahead.
It'll be on the website on Monday, the University Controller's website, the list of all the projects and their setups.
Next question is, does this mean Central will correct the UDOs for all of the POs on the chart?
Yes, but we need the information back from you by May 23rd in order to correct it with the full GL chart string that you provide.
And as a follow-up, is provided each unit provides the correct UDO string to use?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, GCA contacted me last week to advise that some of my grants for a specific sponsor that had a federal flow-through were assigned fund type 560, but should be 315. So they are updating this in the projects. With the Chart of Accounts initiative, that means that every single transaction that hit these accounts or is currently pending in these accounts has to be updated individually. Since we were just notified of these changes, our accounts were not listed in the spreadsheet sent by the Controller's Office. Can these issues be added, or is this department responsible for fixing every single transaction?
Yeah, we'll be. So the This is an ongoing, so this is a process, right? So we need to get everything cleaned up by year end. So we're starting now. The file right now is as of February 19th. So we know that we need to provide everybody with updated spreadsheets to make sure that this stuff is all flushed out and cleaned up by year end. So the answer is yes. We will be sending out spreadsheets for the ones that are that we need to catch up on by year end.
How do you access this invalid list so that I can correct the UDO in column I?
Okay. Well, that's a good question. Let's just go through that again. So if your GL account, what you'll see in column G is the cross-validation rule that's in violation. So that's going to give you the biggest clue as to what you need to do to take action. So what you want to do is you want to see the GL account, and then you want to look at the rule that it's violating. And then what you want to do is you want to go to the spreadsheet with the rules in it to look at the rule, and that'll tell you what you need to fix. And like I said in the previous slide, if it's a UDO problem, if one of those rules talk about a UD or a UDO, that's when you need to refer to the valid UDO list to make sure that you're using one of the UDOs that's on the valid list.
And so specifically, this rule says that it enforces that grant fund types 310, 315, 320, 375, et cetera, can only be used in combination with research, healthcare, public service, scholarship, business lines.
Mm-hmm.
So in that spreadsheet, it would imply, we've violated that particular rule.
Okay, but I do want to answer the question specifically, so I'm just going up. If you go to slide 36, this shows you on the controller's website where all of these files are. So the file, if you're referring to valid and invalid UDOs, it shows you on slide 36 how to access the file on the controller's website, along with all the other files that we went through today.
That answers this question, how do I access the spreadsheet to change it?
Yes, the spreadsheet to change it is to the fourth file down. It's called Purchase Order Lines with Cross-Validation Rule Violations.
Okay, we'll continue to pause for a little bit to see if there are any other questions coming through. Okay. At this point, we don't see any more questions coming through. We do appreciate everybody's time to attend this webinar. Again, as a reminder, we will be sending out a survey. We would ask that you do please complete that survey, as it helps us get better if there's any other information you need to know. Also, if you were registered for the class, you will get an email for this WebEx. If you did not register, please go to the controller's website and pull down the survey. If you're in a conference room and you need to get credit for this, please send an email to Renee Hagwood. That's rh550@finance.rutgers.edu. And we'll make sure you get credit and the survey as well. And I did see that as I was talking, another question popped up.
So I do want to answer this one. So if you go to slide 38, if your UDO is valid and you want to make sure it has a rule, you go to this file called RU Marketplace Valid UDOs Without Rules and UDOs to be deactivated. If your UDO is on this list, it means it's a valid UDO, but it doesn't have a rule in RU Marketplace. And if you plan to use RU Marketplace for that UDO, you need to follow the steps, instructions on this presentation, and request an approver. That file can be found. It's the second one down on slide 36. It's called Argue Marketplace Valid UDOs Without Rules and UDOs to be Deactivated.
And really, that slide is just a picture of the controller's website. So in the controller's website, under the Chart of Accounts Initiative, you can find it right there, right now. Okay, a couple more questions. How do I know? One more question. Will Marketplace give errors when violating rules?
Yeah, so let me go to that slide too. If you go to slide 39, if you see this error message, you're going to have to click on the notification, the bell, and if you see this error message, it says a requisition you submitted has been returned, and there's nothing in the history or the notes. It means one of three things. Either you didn't fill out the chart string, or it's a punch-out order where the shipping address has changed, or it's a UDO issue. Either the UDO is not valid or the UDO is valid without an approver.
Okay. What if you cannot locate a fund type and business line which matches?
Well, fund type you can't request. They're only approved by the budget office. But if you cannot locate a business line, you can always request a business line, and you can go out to the University Controller's website and request or click on a Request New Business Line Value form. And if you have any questions, you can just contact COA at finance.rutgers.edu, and we'll provide the form to you.
There's a question here that says that the computer sound stopped. I don't know if that's... Okay. All right. That was my question. I'm looking at the cross-validation rules.
Okay.
If you cannot locate a fund type and business line, shouldn't my current fund type and business line match?
Maybe.
Yes, maybe we need to be a little clear. I don't understand the question yet. There is one that snuck in between, though. In my case, another department used my UDO, so invalid PO shows in my queue. Another department used my UDO, so invalid PO shows in my queue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, still needs to be fixed. So, so what we're asking for is all these to get fixed. Okay, so on the list that you received, there's a preparer. The second to last column is the preparer. You can reach out to the preparer and get more information about the violation and what the new account should be. If you need to go up the chain from that preparer to their manager, then please do so.
Okay. All right, so we got a little clarification on the fund type business line match. I'm looking for fund type 380 with business line 3300. Did not find 3300.
Okay, so there's either one of two things. Either the 3300 business line value doesn't exist or is not an appropriate value for fund type 380.
No, it's there.
But it is, so
If you look
like Tom is showing, it's CBR FL fund type business line 07.
So that's
Says if the segment fund type is using 380, which is right there, then the segment that you then use the segment for business line, and 3300 is sitting right there.
So that's a valid combination. So you shouldn't have any problems using 380 with 3300.
This is good. I know I really do appreciate these kinds of these questions, so we can work through some of these things. You know, we live and breathe this, so it becomes second nature to us. But for you, it's the first time maybe some of you are looking at these things. So definitely appreciate it. And as Tom said, it's an iterative process. We know that you will continue to have questions. Please make sure that you do reach out to your appropriate contact or email box. There are a lot of people here focused on making sure that you get everything that you need in order to transact clean in 19. Normally I would just close with that, but yeah, so we do have some next sessions. Again, thank you very much. On May 7th at 10:30, we will be doing the valid UDO organization combinations and chart string combinations for employee charging instructions. On May 9th, we'll be doing the unit division organization combinations and chart string employee charging instructions again. And then on the 17th, we will start subledger accounting rules May 17th and May 23rd. These dates are published on the controller's website.
So I'd like to address the next question. So it's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, the whole reason that we structured the project this way was to give everyone an adjustment period. So between May 7th and July 1st, we should think of that period as the adjustment period, because we have the rules in monitor mode, but they're not fully enforced. So it gives everyone a chance to kind of go through an adjustment period to run the monitoring reports, see where you have violations, and make whatever corrections you need to within your organization to make sure you're using the chart of accounts correctly starting on July 1st. So we should all be viewing this period as the adjustment period.
And thank you, Leah. Will T-shirts with clean in 19 be on sale? Yes, that's a great idea. We'll take that offline, and I don't think we would put it up for sale, because then we have to deal with like expense recoveries and stuff like that. More. Okay. Thank you so much. Everybody enjoy the rest of the day, and we appreciate your time and patience through this process.